Okay, the first thing we're going to do as we're making sausage is we're going to put our grinder in the freezer. Can you do it for me, buddy? The reason we do that is we want everything to be as cold as possible. The more cold it stays, the better it is for the meat. It's good for food safety because as we're grinding, we're adding a lot of surface area. Now I'm going to open my pork butt, and you can use bone in, bone out, doesn't matter. The reason you use pork butt is the fat content. It has about the right fat ratio. And what I always like to do is when they run these through, if you put it through the saw too fast, you get bone chips. So I'm looking for any bone chips and I'm scraping off any dust. Right there is a bone chip. I don't want that to get to my sausage. So I'll give this a scrape, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate out as much fat as I can and put it on a tray, and the meat and put on a tray. I'll put it in the freezer so it'll be really cold to partially frozen, and then we'll be ready for grinding. And what I'm also feeling for in here is, well, I can feel it right here. Sometimes the fat on this is really hard. It has a little bit of cartilage or something in there. It does not render out as you're making your sausage, so I want to cut off any of that too. So the hard fat like that, it feels very stiff. That'll get thrown away. The softer fat, I'll cut off and I will add to our fat pile, because depending on the sausage you make depends on the quantity of fat you want. And we can control it by having the fat and meat separated. Okay, got the butts all cut up, and I like to cut my meat into strips. My grinder, when you put it in, it'll grab it and pull it in. If you have a bunch of little chunks, it can kind of spin around, but if you have a strip, the grinder, little screw in there, will grab it and pull it right in. So let's get this into the freezer, and when it's very cold, almost frozen, then it'll be time to grind. Ready, buddy? Okay, see you in just a bit. Okay, so we're ready to grind our meat. We pulled this out of the freezer. It's nice and cold. Our meat is nice and cold, a little stiff, almost frozen. Okay, buddy, so when we do this, this is the only thing that can go down the hole. We don't put our hands or anything else.
Okay.
And I'll put the meat up here, and if you want to drop it down, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
For this sausage, we're going to do a fine grind. We always start off with a coarse grind, 3/8 plate, about 10 millimeters. And now I've dropped to a 3/16 plate. That is about 4.5 millimeters. So we'll grind that, and then we'll be ready to mix in our spices. I'll put it up here for you, buddy, and then just drop it through there.
Make a little ball.
And there we have it. Now let's mix up our spices. Well, I'll weigh it to see how much we need to put in, and it'll be ready. Okay, we got our spices mixed up. I have the percentages and recipe down below, so you can follow along. Our meat is ground fine, so we're going to dump it into a mixer. If you don't have a mixer, you can do it by hand. The mixer actually makes it a little faster and easier. And you want to dump this in, buddy? That's our spices. And also, I prefer to use for this actually a German white wine for Italian sausage. Kind of odd, I know. But that has a little bit more sweetness. You can dump that in, buddy. And it's not as winey at the end. So that's something kind of nice to there. So we put all this in there. And if you have a cookie dough paddle, you can put that on, and it mixes it up really quick. And we're going to mix it until it gets to be kind of a sticky tacky. Okay, let's try this. So you can see it's sticky, like Dairy Queen. If we were to hold it outside the window, it's not going to fall. That tells us that the meat has mixed up. I believe it's myosin has been released. Because if you ever had a sausage that's really, crumbly and kind of dry, they might not have mixed it enough. So if you mix it well, then you won't have that. Can you hold this up, buddy? So what we're doing now is we're putting it in the plastic bag. We'll put it in the refrigerator and I'll let it sit for 24 hours. That way all the flavors can meld. After 24 hours, it's ready to use. The flavors will be fully developed and we will actually package it because we make up a big batch and then we just freeze it for whenever we need it.
Well, I think it's already.
Okay, this would be about 5 pounds, bud. Can you hold it open?
Oh.
Is it heavy?
Yes. Very heavy. Oh. Oh.
Okay. I'll seal that up and tomorrow Caleb and I will wrap it. Sound good, buddy? Okay, so it's been about 24 hours and our sausage is ready. So we are going to wrap it up. And we like to make it in about half-pound patties. The reason for that is some of our recipes only use a half of a pound, but you can see it's changed colors. It soaked up a lot of the color from the paprika, and the texture has changed too. It's come together a little bit more, and it's a little more solid. So Big Man and I will get that all wrapped up. You can also smell all the spices coming off of it, and we'll put it in the freezer, and then it will be ready for the use in recipes.